China is no longer importing soybeans or beef from the US. What's going to happen next? Farmers in Indiana and Nebraska and other states in the country are going to lose their farms. And when they do, corporations are going to buy up that land. The tariffs aren't bringing industry back to the US. Tariffs are not going to help small businesses. Tariffs are not going to help farmers. Tariffs are going to help corporations and more rich people like Trump. So you know what? Keep cheering it on, MAGA. Keep cheering it on, because you're cheering on your own demise.
I looked at what the US's main export to China is, and it's soybeans for pigs. Not even for humans, soybeans to feed their pigs. Isn't that a subservient export? It's pathetic. And also I was thinking, good for soybeans for pigs, you know?
Listen, we up.
I mean, is it possible that we should not have voted for Trump? I just can't understand why President Trump would keep hurting the people that voted for him. My family owns a soybean farm in Illinois, and during his first term, when he put the tariffs on China, he almost bankrupted us, but then he did get a bailout through Congress, a $28 billion bailout, and we were able to accrue our money back. Just in this past week, he put the tariffs on China again. China canceled their contracts with 3 of the biggest soybean exporters in the United States. Our farm grows soybeans, and we sell 100% of our product to the Louis Dreyfus Company. Soybeans are America's #1 export. It's an $18 billion a year industry, and now China has canceled an enormous part of that. We are going to be ruined. Not just us, but so many other farms, and we all voted for him. We just keep voting for him no matter how bad he hurts us. It doesn't really even make sense that we keep voting for him, but we do it anyway. Someone could just maybe help me understand why he keeps hurting the people that put him into office.
Hey everyone, I have some late breaking news. China now gets all its soybeans from Brazil because of Donald Trump's tariffs. So you got to think, how much money did the United States lose over this? How much taxable income did the United States lose? So now Brazil is China's #1 importer for these soybeans. They're getting it all from Brazil. So how do you think this is hurting the American people? Because of Donald Trump's tariffs, China does not rely on the United States for this product. So basically, the farmers are losing, and the workers and everyone else involved in the soybean industry, which is also people who deliver it, transport it. So it's a big chain, and they're all losing. So Mr. Trump, I bet Brazil is absolutely thankful for what you did.
Our farmers will be some of the hardest hit by those triple-digit Chinese tariffs. China buys over half of all the soybeans that the U.S. produces.
And a 125% tariff on these soybeans will be devastating.
The tariffs will be a huge incentive for people in China to source their beans from elsewhere, severely damaging U.S. soybean farmers. Soybean farmers already receive significant subsidies from the U.S. government, but they will need to be subsidized even more heavily to make up for the lost demand from China. Once again, it is important to remember that China is the 3rd largest purchaser of U.S. goods, so it is imprudent to simply dismiss them as not necessary to U.S. trade. They very much are. But as in any trading conflict or partnership, there are always going to be winners and losers. And it looks like in this particular round of the trade evolution between China and the U.S., soybean farmers will be coming out on the losing end in the U.S. And for people saying these soybean farmers don't matter, you've just made the D3 list, a podcast about dumb, desperate, and diabolical business decisions.
Soybeans for pigs are having their day in the sun. I would never, and they would never, to be fair to them, have put themselves as the main character in any news story. Then they're looking at the league table, they're higher than petroleum, you know? They are top of the league at 9% of US exports to China. They can't believe it. I can't believe it. It's a wonderful day for soybeans for pigs.
Well, Josie, just on the soybean for pigs issue.
Yeah, continuing on the soybean for pigs issue, yeah.
Yeah, it could be crippling for China to cut off their supply of American soybean for pigs, because obviously we all know that China doesn't have land on which they could grow crops, or people who could tend those crops, or any familiarity with soy as a agricultural staple, despite the fact that they've been eating tofu since, I looked it up, the Han Dynasty in the 2nd century BC. So it raises an important question, which is, why is China's biggest import from the U.S. something that they are famous for? And there is an obvious answer, which is that Chinese pigs are snobs and prefer the superior mouthfeel and hints of sandalwood and blackcurrant finish of American soybeans.
Chinese pigs live better.
I don't think it's that shocking. United States probably still produce more soybean than anybody else. What's shocking is, why don't you use soybean? Make something out of soybean. I don't know. You have, okay, you put soybean in the water and you can grow sprout. And you fry the sprout. That's one of the best dishes. You make soy sauce out of soybean. You make soy milk out of soybean. You push the soybean. You got tofu. You put tofu harder. You got dry tofu. And you can even get stinky tofu. Why don't you use soybean more?
I want to thank every single Trump supporter for voting for Trump, because now I get to enjoy all the soy milk that I want. And I have to give a big thank you to you, Trump voters. You guys are the best. You guys have brought law and order back to this country. And I mean, I have a loss for words, because you guys are just incredible, especially to the farmers. I love you guys. You guys are the best individuals in this entire country. Like, I mean, I don't know what I would do without my soy milk. We don't have to export them. I mean, we have to keep everything here in the United States. It's a must.
Farmers are starting to regret their vote for Trump. From beekeepers to soybean to hay producers, all of them are starting to say, I never thought that voting for Trump 3 times would result in me losing tens of thousands of dollars. A beekeeper out of North Carolina says, yeah, I proudly voted for Trump all 3 times. I flew flags for him and put signs for him in the yard. But now I'm out tens of thousands of dollars due to lost federal funding and tariffs, so I cannot export my products, my honey and my wax, to other countries like I could before, and nobody's buying it in the United States. Hay producers in Idaho and Utah that export alfalfa hay to China are now seeing 135% tariffs put on their product, and all of a sudden, they don't have anywhere to ship it. They held it all winter in hopes of sending it off to China in the spring, and now China's not willing to buy. Soybean producers are once again being hit harder than they were in the first Trump administration, and China, for its part, has diversified where it pulls these products from, with Brazil becoming the #1 soybean exporter, and other countries picking up the slack for honey, for beeswax, and for hay around the world.
So now, whatever Trump is doing with tariff is affecting farmers here in America. And that's the bottom line. A lot of people wanted him to tariff people, but it's going to affect you. So now, instead of China importing soybean from American farmers, now they are going to import it. Brazil. They're turning to Brazil now. So who's losing?
That's a big issue for the farmers.
And once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah, it's like a building come down. It's hard to put it. You know, you can take a building down in one day, but you can't put it up in one day. That's the problem. And the long-term effect on that. Wow.
This is a big deal, you know, because I heard this will not be easy to be repaired, because now they're gonna have to depend on other countries to import these soybeans, and everybody running from America. They're all running away.
Yeah.
This is a mess.
Yeah.
So Now the farmers are hurting.
Many of you remember before the election, I did several videos where I tried to speak to rural America, particularly farmers and ranchers, to talk to them about the ramifications of a second term for Donald Trump. And in several of those videos, I talked about the fact that if we were to elect Donald Trump and he were to impose a second round of tariffs on China, the results would be devastating. And if you think hard about it, you'll remember what we talked about. Number one, we talked about the fact that China wasn't prepared for the tariffs in the first Trump administration. They had a disease going through their hog population. They didn't have good stocks of row crops. So they were caught off guard, and they had to continue to buy some American pork and some American row crop products in order to survive the tariffs, especially at the time of C-19. But we also talked about what's happened since then. The Chinese no longer have a disease going through their pork population, and they're well stocked in pork. And in addition to that, they've reached out to South America and made best friends with the governments of Brazil and Argentina, and they are importing a lot of wheat and corn and soybeans from South America to the point where Brazil, which used to supply China with only 13% of their row crops, is now supplying them with over 43% of their row crops. And that relationship is just getting cozier and cozier. And we talked about the fact that if we were to impose another round of tariffs on China, it would be devastating for row crop farmers because since China is more prepared, not only would they be less likely to continue to buy row crops from Americans and from American farmers, they would also impose reciprocal tariffs of their own that would be devastating for row crop farmers in America. And guys, that's exactly what's happened. That's exactly what's happened. And again, this isn't an I told you so video, but it sure as hell is I wish you would listen video. Because on Friday, the Chinese told the 3 largest soybean distributors in this country that sell the beans that farmers raise in this country to China, you can no longer do business here. Your contracts are canceled. Your licenses are canceled. In addition to that, they placed their own reverse tariffs on all different kinds of categories: pork, beef, corn, fowl, poultry.
Oh my Lord, this is just tough to hear. I'm not a farmer, but this is tough. And this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning.
Wow.
Because other people, especially those people in Europe, they are coming together and they are purchasing, going to be importing stuff that they import from America, from other countries. Who is this hurting?
The long-term effects on this maybe cannot be repaired.
Yeah, because they're not going to come back.
Yeah.
China is not going to come back to return to importing.
American credibility and confidence and trust is gone.
And guess what? China is in this fight for the long haul.
Yeah.
And
they can do it.
They're taking other recourse. They don't have to. What they're saying, they don't have to purchase from America.
The thing about it is that China is strategic.
Mm-hmm.
America government is not strategic.
They're just throwing out tariff.
Impulsive, very impulsive.
Not thoughtful.
Impulsive and reactionary.
Yeah. That is this is a big deal. This is a big deal, and I feel it for those farmers. I must tell you, I really do. Continue to join me for more on my page. Okay, thanks.
And remember what we said, those studies that have been done by the American Soybean Association, by the corn growers before the last election, that if these tariffs took place again, it would cost soybean farmers 37 billion metric tons of soybean sales to China and around the world. And with corn, it could cost as much as 80% of the corn sales in this country. And here we go. Top 3 soybean sales companies in this country, their licenses to sell to China have been canceled. Chinese are saying, we don't want your beans anymore. And now we face the same thing, the same threat that we warned would happen before the last election, happening now to corn as well. And we're talking billions of dollars worth of corn sales. There's no way a paltry $526 million ethanol fuel program sponsored by the Trump administration in Iowa is going to make up for the billions of dollars in lost corn sales we are going to have because of these tariffs. And look at what happened today. I got up this morning and while I was drinking my coffee up here at the farm, I listened to TikTok after TikTok of Trump supporters saying, well, he proved it today. The market's up 700 points. We're getting back all these gains. All these countries are coming to the table. And then what did we learn? When they asked the White House, you're claiming China wants to make a deal. Have you talked to China? No, we haven't. Have they said what kind of a deal they want? No, they haven't. Well, you're claiming South Korea wants a deal. Have you talked to them? Yes, we have. Have they talked about what kind of a deal they want? No, they haven't. And the truth of the matter is the market saw bullshit. And then what did the White House do? This afternoon, they announced that they're going to impose 104% tariffs on China, and the market lost every single one of the gains that it gained earlier today because there's chaos in the marketplace. People do not know how to plan for this, and this administration is woefully unprepared to do battle with the Chinese. I'm just telling you guys, this administration, when it comes to agriculture and rural policy, they're not playing chess. They're not playing checkers. They're sitting in the corner playing with themselves. There's no other way to put it because everything they're doing from a policy perspective and an action perspective is failing. And now the chickens are coming home to roost. Why am I making this video? It's not to say I told you so. It's to say get off your butts. Republicans and independents and Democrats, all 3 of you. But I know the Democrats are doing the hard work. Get off your butts and make those calls to those Republican policyholders, those Republican office holders, those Republican politicians, and tell them to take back their power on these tariffs so that they can stop what's happening. There's no positive trend going on here, guys. I'm telling you right now, read the markets. Go out there and read the data from these conservative agricultural organizations that have no love for Democratic politicians that are telling us that shit is going south in a hurry. Farmers have already taken out their loans. They've already put a lot of their crops in the ground. If there are no sales and there are no subsidies, it will be too late for small farmers and ranchers. So get up, Republicans. You Republican farmers, get up and make those calls. Don't allow your cattlemen organizations to speak for you. Don't allow the Farm Bureau to speak for you. You make the calls yourselves to these politicians that you voted for and tell them you expect them to take their power over these tariffs back and to stop this freight train before it goes off the cliff. Because left to their own devices, this administration is not going to stop it. That's your call to action. Will you heed it? I don't know, but I hope so. Because if you don't, J.D. Vance and all of his friends at Acre Trader are going to make a hell of a lot of money come the end of this year when the harvest comes in and there's no place to sell it.
So have you heard the latest, folks? Brazil has now filled the soybean void after China cancelled all soybean imports from America. Interestingly, China had actually paused soybeans coming in from Brazil back in January. So Trump really screwed that one up royally, yeah, for China to lift the embargo and just say, yep, we want your soybeans now. And they're probably going to pay them decent money, right? So anyway, the American dollar's weaker. Things are starting to shift. And I honestly think that Trump has done irreparable damage to the United States. The world's lost all confidence, and there's going to be massive ramifications.
Some breaking news for you guys. So China will now import soybeans from Brazil. So Donald Trump just helped Brazil. So thank you very much, Donald Trump. In this tariff war, the only people losing is the American people.